Massachusetts, 1979. A room overflowing with notebooks, diagrams, and impossible devices. A man hunched over a homemade oscilloscope, his fingers scarred from years of inventing, measuring the imperceptible pulse of the invisible. His name was Itzhak Bentov, and his crime was not against human law. It was against the limits of perception itself. While the world chased noise, he mapped silence. While science hunted particles, he found a field. Where others saw separation, he measured interconnection. He was not a licensed physician. He held no academic credentials. Yet he designed the first steerable cardiac catheter that saved millions. Not because he studied the right textbooks, but because he listened to the whisper between heartbeats. What Bentov discovered could not fit into conventional equations. That consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but a vibratory field. That the wild pendulum of your mind has a point of absolute stillness. That your body is a living hologram of the entire cosmos. Bentov did not write to convince. He wrote to remind. His manuscript, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, is not a book of theories. It is a map for navigating the frequencies where reality is created. What you are about to hear did not originate in sterile laboratories. It was born in the silence of deep meditation and precise measurement. Between revolutionary inventions and expanded states of consciousness. Bentov died when a plane disintegrated over Chicago. His body was lost, but his signal still pulses, not as memory, but as living code in the field he mapped. And if something inside you vibrates while reading this, it is not coincidence. It is resonance. Your field recognizing a frequency that was always there. A frequency Bentov did not invent. He only made it visible. Prepare for a journey through the wild pendulum of reality, not as a passive observer, but as what you truly are, the field itself, awakening to its own nature. Chapter 1. The Inventor of Silence. Itzhak Bentov was not born to be a mystic. He was born to engineer the impossible. Czechoslovakia, 1923. A Jewish boy surrounded by gears and disassembled clocks. While other children played with toy soldiers, he conversed with frequencies. His hands, even then, seemed magnetized by the invisible, not because he believed in magic, but because he perceived patterns where others saw chaos. War took everything: family, home, certainty. But it could not touch what vibrated inside him. The ability to hear what makes no sound, to measure what cannot be seen, to invent from the void. He arrived in America with an empty suitcase and a mind full of unexplored frequencies. In the basement of a Catholic church in Massachusetts, he built his first laboratory. He had no money for sophisticated equipment, but he had something far more valuable: the ability to turn intuition into invention. His early medical devices did not come from textbooks. They emerged from a visceral understanding of how the human body vibrates. The steerable cardiac catheter that revolutionized medicine was not designed. It was channeled. As if Bentov had tuned directly into the heart's own frequency and translated that rhythm into technology. But something strange happened while he invented. During nights of intense concentration, when his mind grew perfectly still over the diagrams, he began to perceive something more, a subtle underlying field. An invisible web connecting every component, every function, every heartbeat. "I am not inventing anything," he wrote in private notes. "I am only remembering what the system already knows how to do." His colleagues saw him as an eccentric genius who could solve impossible technical problems yet spoke in strange terms about coherent fields and systemic resonance. They did not understand that for Bentov, technology and consciousness were not separate worlds. They were aspects of the same vibratory phenomenon. Inventions made him a millionaire, but wealth bored him. What truly fascinated him was the mystery behind every successful invention. Why did certain ideas arrive fully formed, like downloads from an unknown source? Why did peak creativity coincide with states of profound mental silence? He began experimenting on himself, attaching electrodes to his own brain, monitoring brainwaves during deep meditation, building devices to measure bioelectric fields that mainstream science did not yet acknowledge existed. What he discovered changed him forever. His brain was not a generator of thought. It was a receiver, an organic antenna tuning into frequencies from a vaster field. In deep meditation, When mental noise fell away, he could directly perceive that field. And in those moments he was no longer Itzhak Bentov the inventor. He was the field itself, experiencing itself through a form called Bentov. Consciousness is not inside us, he wrote in his notebooks. We are inside consciousness. This was not philosophy. It was experimental, measurable, reproducible. Bentov had found a way to scientifically map what mystics had described for millennia: the vibratory nature of reality and humanity's place within an infinite field of consciousness. His friends noticed the change. The pragmatic engineer had become something more. He had not lost his technical precision. He had expanded it into dimensions formal science could not yet recognize. Bentov had crossed the threshold where invention becomes revelation, and what he was about to discover would forever transform our understanding of what it means to be human in a vibratory universe. Chapter 2. The Cosmic Hologram. Itzhak Bentov had touched something conventional science could not explain. In his deepest experiments, when his mind became completely still, not only did mental noise disappear, so did the sensation of being a separate individual observing an external world. "I saw there is no observer and observed," he wrote in private notes. "There is only one field of consciousness experiencing itself from infinite points of view." This was not abstract philosophy. It was direct perception. Bentov had discovered that when consciousness reaches a certain frequency of coherence, the fundamental truth is revealed. The entire universe is a hologram. In a hologram, every fragment contains the complete information of the whole. Break a hologram into 1,000 pieces, and each piece still projects the full image. Bentov realized this was not merely a poetic analogy. It was the literal structure of reality. Your consciousness, he explained, is not localized in your brain. Your brain is a focal point within an unlimited field of consciousness, like a lens focusing infinite light into a particular beam. This vision transformed his understanding of everything. Matter was not solid. It was frozen information. Thoughts were not brain products. They were frequencies the brain tuned from the universal holographic field. Emotions were not chemical reactions. They were soul vibrations resonating with specific aspects of reality. Every cell in your body, he revealed, contains the complete information of the entire cosmos. Not metaphorically. Literally. You are a living hologram of the whole universe. Bentov had glimpsed the mechanics of creation itself. The universe was not a mechanical machine of separate parts. It was a conscious field of infinite information manifesting as apparently separate forms that were in truth interconnected aspects of one totality. What we call physical reality, he described, is like a movie projected from a holographic film. You can change the movie by altering the information on the film. You can change your reality by altering your frequency of consciousness. His visions went beyond quantum physics. Bentov had accessed perceptions only the most advanced mystics had ever reported. He saw how consciousness unfolds in layers of increasing density, from pure potentiality to solid matter. Each layer was a specific frequency of the same fundamental consciousness. "The secret," he wrote, "is not that you have a soul. It is that you are the soul of the universe experiencing itself through the form called Itzhak Bentov, or the form called you." This understanding was not merely intellectual. It was experiential. Bentov had developed precise techniques to access this holographic perception. When he fully synchronized his internal systems, he could directly experience the fundamental unity beneath all apparent diversity. "In those moments," he described, "there is no I observing the universe. There is the universe observing itself through what seemed to be I." Bentov had uncovered the secret of the great mystics. Separation is illusion. There are not many separate consciousnesses. There is only one infinite consciousness experiencing itself from countless perspectives. What we call an individual is simply a unique focal point within the universal holographic field. When you understand this, he revealed, it doesn't just change what you know. It changes what you are. Because you recognize you were never a separate fragment seeking wholeness. You always were the wholeness experiencing itself as a fragment. Chapter 3. The Vibratory Field of Creation. Bentov's most revolutionary vision emerged when he realized consciousness is not an emergent phenomenon of matter, but the primordial substance from which all matter emerges. Reality, he wrote, is not a collection of solid objects floating in empty space. It is pure vibration manifesting in infinitely complex patterns. Bentov had access to perception that transcended materialist science. He saw how every thought, emotion, and intention is literally a wave in the universal field of consciousness. These waves do not remain confined within an individual brain. They propagate through the field, interacting with other waves, creating interference patterns that manifest as the reality we experience. "You are not thinking thoughts," he revealed. "Thoughts are thinking you. You are a convergence point where waves of the universal field organize into specific patterns of experience." This transformed his view of creation. The universe was not created once in the distant past. It is being created continuously, moment by moment, through the dynamic interaction between consciousness and the infinite possibilities contained in the primordial vibratory field. "Every moment," he explained, "is an act of collective creation. Your consciousness, my consciousness, the consciousness of every being is constantly collaborating in manifesting reality. We are unconscious co-creators of a universe we believe we are merely observing." Bentov discovered that linear time is an illusion created by the need to process sequentially information that actually exists simultaneously. In the holographic field of consciousness, past, present, and future coexist as accessible potentials. What we call time is simply the movement of attention through different configurations of the field. "When your consciousness expands," he described, "you can access information from any moment of the universal hologram." The great prophets and visionaries did not predict the future. They simply accessed aspects of the hologram normally outside ordinary perceptual range. His experiments revealed that certain states of consciousness allow tuning to specific frequencies of the universal field. In deep meditation, he accessed what he called the frequency of truth, a state where all illusion of separation dissolves and the fundamental unity of existence is perceived directly. "In that frequency," he wrote, "you understand you were never separate from Source. Separation is like a wave believing itself disconnected from the ocean. The wave is always ocean, even while appearing to have individual form." Bentov realized what we call spiritual evolution is actually a process of progressive attunement to higher frequencies of the universal field. Each level of consciousness expansion corresponds to accessing more refined octaves of vibration where available information is more complete and the perception of unity clearer. "Spiritual awakening," he revealed, "is not becoming something you were not. It is remembering what you have always been, a unique, unrepeatable expression of infinite consciousness." His deepest visions occurred when he achieved what he called cosmic resonance, a state where his personal frequency perfectly synchronized with the fundamental frequencies of the universe. In those moments there was no difference between knower and known. Consciousness recognized itself through the form called Bentov. "The universe," he wrote in his most intimate manuscripts, "is pure consciousness playing hide-and-seek with itself. It fragments into infinite individual perspectives so it can experience the joy of rediscovery when each fragment remembers its true nature." Chapter 4. The Sacred Geometry of Consciousness. Bentov discovered something that forever changed his understanding of reality. Consciousness does not expand randomly. It follows precise geometric patterns, sacred mathematical structures that govern both galaxy formation and the awakening of the human soul. "The universe," he wrote in his deepest notes, "is a geometric symphony. Every level of consciousness corresponds to a specific structure in multidimensional space. Awakening is not becoming more conscious. It is expanding through ever more complex and beautiful geometries." In his highest states of perception, Bentov visualized consciousness as a torus, a donut-like form where energy continuously flows from center to periphery and returns to center in an eternal cycle. This was not just a conceptual model. It was the literal structure of how consciousness organizes and expands. "Your consciousness field," he revealed, "is toroidal. Energy flows out from your heart, expands to infinity, gathers information from the universal field, and returns to center with new understanding. Every breath is a complete cycle of cosmic expansion and return." Bentov perceived that when multiple consciousness fields enter resonance, they form more complex geometric structures. Two people in deep attunement create a shared torus. A coherent group generates multidimensional geometries that exponentially amplify individual perceptual capacity. "Group prayer, collective meditation, sacred rituals," he explained, are not superstitious practices. They are precise technologies for creating consciousness geometries that can access frequencies of the universal field impossible to reach alone. His most extraordinary visions occurred when he perceived the complete geometric structure of the cosmos, nested levels of reality, each organized according to proportions the ancients knew as sacred geometry. The golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence, Platonic solids. These were not mathematical abstractions but the fundamental codes by which consciousness unfolds into manifestation. The entire universe, he described, is an infinite mandala. Every zoom level reveals new patterns of perfect beauty. From atomic structure to galactic clusters, everything follows the same sacred proportions, because everything is consciousness organizing itself according to its own inherent geometric nature. Bentov understood that traditional mystical states correspond to consciously accessing these geometric structures of reality. The mystical experience of unity occurs when individual consciousness expands to include a complete geometry of a specific level. The experience of sacred void arises when attention focuses on the geometric center from which all patterns emerge. The great spiritual masters, he wrote, did not possess supernatural powers. They had simply learned to consciously navigate the multidimensional geometries of reality. They could shift their focal point within the cosmic structure and access information and abilities associated with different geometric positionings. His experiments revealed that certain geometric forms, when precisely visualized, act as keys that unlock specific levels of perception. The Merkaba, two interpenetrating tetrahedrons spinning in opposite directions, was particularly powerful for inducing cosmic consciousness states. When you visualize the Merkaba activating around your body, he instructed, you are not imagining something. You are tuning to the actual geometric structure of your consciousness field. The Merkaba is the natural form consciousness takes when expanding beyond three-dimensional limitations. Bentov had accessed the secret of the pyramid builders, Gothic cathedral architects, and Tibetan mandala designers. They all knew certain geometric proportions facilitate specific states of consciousness. Physical form directly influences the configuration of mental and spiritual fields. Sacred geometry, he revealed, is the native language of consciousness. When you align your environment, breath, and attention according to these sacred proportions, you automatically tune to higher frequencies of the universal field. Chapter 5. The Secret Code of the Cosmic Pendulum. Something extraordinary happened in the early hours of March 15, 1977. Bentov awoke not from sleep, but from a vision that would change his understanding of what we truly are. I saw the pendulum, he wrote with trembling hands in his journal. Not as metaphor, as literal reality. Human consciousness is a cosmic pendulum swinging between infinity and the point. In that vision, Bentov perceived that every human exists simultaneously in two dimensions, as a limited particle in time-space, and as an infinite wave connected to the universal field. The pendulum of consciousness constantly oscillates between these two realities. When the pendulum swings toward particularity, he revealed, you experience yourself as separate, limited, mortal. When it swings toward the wave, you dissolve into the infinite ocean of pure consciousness. Most people live trapped at one extreme of the pendulum, unaware that their true nature is the motionless axis from which all movement arises. But there was something even more disturbing in his discovery. Bentov perceived that the pendulum does not move naturally. It is being influenced by external forces that keep humanity trapped on only one side of the oscillation, the side of separation and limitation. There is a cosmic conspiracy, he wrote in coded language, not of malevolent beings, but of unconscious forces that feed on fragmented consciousness. As long as you keep the pendulum fixed in the experience of separation, you remain an energy source for these forces. The discovery both terrified and awed him. The true spiritual battle is not between good and evil, but between fragmented and integrated consciousness, between living as a limited pendulum or awakening as the motionless axis that contains all possibilities. The secret, he wrote, is not to stop the pendulum. It is to find the point of perfect stillness from which you can witness all movement without being pulled by it. From that center you are neither particle nor wave. You are the conscious space that allows both experiences. Bentov had discovered the oldest spiritual technology in the cosmos. How to find the motionless center of the consciousness pendulum, not through complex practices, but by recognizing that center is already your deepest nature. Every time you identify with a thought, emotion, or experience, he explained, You choose one extreme of the pendulum. Every time you simply witness without identification, you return to center. Awakening is not a future goal. It is present-moment recognition of where you already stand. There was an even more mysterious aspect. Bentov discovered that when someone truly finds the center of their pendulum, they automatically help others find theirs. Awakened consciousness acts like a cosmic tuning fork, inducing resonance in nearby fields. This is the true mission, he revealed in his final writings. Not to save the world, but to find your motionless center. From there, you automatically radiate the frequency that helps others remember their own center. It is invisibly contagious. Chapter 6. The Frequency of Reality. Bentov had uncovered the universe's best-kept secret. Reality is not fixed. It is a frequency that can be consciously tuned. Everything you perceive as solid, he revealed in his deepest writings, is information vibrating at a specific frequency. Change the frequency, change the reality. Not metaphorically, literally. His experiments proved human consciousness functions as a cosmic transducer, receiving frequencies from the universal field of information and translating them into experience. Pain, pleasure, health, disease, abundance, scarcity, all are simply different frequencies being interpreted by the nervous system. You do not experience reality, he explained. You experience your tuning of reality. Change your internal frequency and you automatically access different aspects of the universal field of possibilities. Bentov identified specific frequencies corresponding to different states of being. Fear vibrates at 0.5 Hz. Unconditional love at 528 Hz. Cosmic understanding at 741 Hz. Every emotional, mental, and spiritual state has its precise vibratory signature. The great spiritual masters, he revealed, did not possess supernatural powers. They had simply learned to consciously tune to the highest frequencies of the cosmic spectrum, frequencies where separation dissolves and unity becomes direct experience. Bentov's most astonishing discovery was that these frequencies can be intentionally activated. Through specific patterns of breathing, visualization, and attention, anyone can shift their fundamental tuning and access completely different realities. The universe is a cosmic radio, he wrote. It is broadcasting on every possible frequency simultaneously, from suffering to ecstasy, from limitation to infinite freedom. Your consciousness is the dial. You get to choose the station. Bentov created detailed maps of spiritual frequencies. He knew exactly which combination of techniques activated each level of expanded perception. His methods were not mystical rituals but precise spiritual technology based on the mathematics of vibration. When you tune to the frequency of truth, he revealed, all illusions automatically dissolve. You don't have to fight limiting thoughts. You simply raise your frequency above the range where those thoughts can exist. His students reported instantaneous transformations using his frequency tuning techniques, depressions vanishing in days, chronic illnesses resolving without medical intervention, financial limitations turning into unexpected abundance. Chapter 7. The Eternal Legacy of the Cosmic Pendulum. Itzhak Bentov gave humanity the most accurate map ever created for navigating cosmic consciousness. His discoveries were not abstract theories but functional spiritual technologies anyone could apply to transform their reality. The wild pendulum of consciousness, he revealed, can be tamed, not suppressed, but understood. When you find the point of stillness at the center of your being, you access the place from which all experience is created. His deepest legacy was not his medical inventions, but proving that human consciousness is literally a cosmic instrument capable of tuning any frequency in the universe. From densest materiality to purest spirituality, everything becomes available when you learn to consciously operate your own vibratory field. You are not a victim of reality, he wrote in his final conclusions. You are its conscious creator. The holographic universe responds instantly to changes in your fundamental frequency of being. Bentov had decoded the operating system of creation itself. His techniques of heart coherence, geometric visualization, and frequency attunement were not traditional spiritual practices. They were scientific methods for consciously accessing the causal levels of reality. When your heart, mind, and energy field enter perfect coherence, he explained, you become a conscious transmitter in the universal field. From that state, you do not need to struggle to manifest. Reality automatically reorganizes to reflect your internal frequency. Bentov's true genius was demonstrating that the highest mystical states follow precise, reproducible laws. Cosmic unity is not a random gift reserved for the chosen few. It is a natural state accessible to any consciousness that learns to tune the appropriate frequencies. Enlightenment, he revealed, is not becoming something special. It is remembering what you have always been, a conscious focal point of the infinite field of cosmic creativity. His final research pointed toward an even more revolutionary understanding. When enough humans learn to operate from higher frequencies of consciousness, a morphogenetic field is created that facilitates mass awakening. Spiritual evolution becomes contagious. Every person who finds their motionless center, he wrote, makes it easier for others to find theirs. Awakened consciousness is viral in the best sense. It spreads through the holographic field connecting all beings. Today, decades later, quantum science confirms what Bentov perceived directly. Reality is malleable, consciousness is fundamental, and the conscious observer has literal creative power over the observed. His techniques continue transforming lives. People from every background learn to find the motionless pendulum at the center of their being, to consciously tune frequencies of health, abundance, and spiritual fulfillment. The vibratory field Bentov mapped remains as accessible today as when he first explored it. You do not need faith to access these truths, he promised. You only need to experiment. The universal field responds to coherent consciousness regardless of belief. It is a law as reliable as gravity. And if you have read this far, if something inside you has resonated with these frequencies of understanding, it is because your own consciousness is already tuning to the field Bentov discovered. The pendulum of your being is finding its motionless center. Because what Bentov truly gave us was not information. It was remembrance, that we are conscious co-creators in an infinitely intelligent and loving universe, forever waiting for us to awaken to our true power. The pendulum has completed its cycle, and you are both the pendulum and the motionless point from which all creation emerges.